Hello and welcome to Advanced Television. We're here at TV Connect in London, and with me is John Nemeth, the Vice President EMEA for Elemental Technologies. Welcome, John. So Elemental's just been named a cool vendor by Gartner in the SDV sector. What is SDV?
Okay, so SDV stands for Software Defined Video, a term we believe we coined, but has now been used by others, including Gartner, and they have indeed afforded us cool vendor status, which is very cool. And it basically outlines our approach, which is encoding, transcoding, beyond encoding to packaging in the software domain. So you're no longer tied to a hardware-based platform, which is very fixed, not agile. Whereas software is extremely agile, particularly if you're in charge of the software stack and you have a very rich API for other technology suppliers to tap into, be it for ad decision engines or stuff like that. And as things change, I mean, recently we have the Google announcement regarding no more Silverlight on Chrome, so everybody needs to start looking at Dash and maybe common encryption with Widevine. And again, we already offer that in our product, and people with a software-based solution can move very quickly across to this. Whereas if they were tied to a hardware-based solution, they're waiting for something else.
So essentially, I can get all of the services from the cloud.
In the cloud, indeed, but software-defined video isn't just linked to the cloud. We basically offer a software product. We're quite happy to sell you a box to run that on, if you prefer, and that will almost certainly, in our case, include GPUs. We make use of GPU acceleration where we can. That gives you greater throughput for file-based transcoding and greater density in live environments. However, many of our customers have a large installed base of blade servers, be they something HP or Cisco UCS, for example, and that's invariably CPU, and they've come to us and said, can we please run your software on these? Very happy to do so. And then, of course, as you mentioned, there's the cloud, and we offer a cloud-based subscription service as a platform as a service, and that's more of a pay-as-you-go environment for a customer, and they can ramp up and ramp down services. So people who have to transcode a huge library of assets don't want to buy a huge number of fixed appliances to do that, which will then sit doing nothing. So they could just do that in cloud, ramp up in the cloud as required, and then spin it down again. People in a live environment, take the World Cup. The cloud was used extensively in the World Cup, and that was a peak of live events, which aren't going to be repeated going forward. So for event-based or a library assets, or take a broadcaster who has to transcode regional news programs twice a day. That's a twice a day peak, not normal latent behavior for their transcoding farm. So the cloud plays perfectly into that.
And it can offer real flexibility.
Yeah, elasticity in extremis. So basically it's whatever suits you as a customer. It's a software product. It can run virtually on anything, anywhere, anytime, and it can be a mixture of all those things I've discussed. So we have customers who may run a certain number of ground-based appliances for what they know they do day in, day out, 24/7, and then they use the cloud to burst services as required, be they live events or be they this twice a day example.
So with that flexibility, you can offer your services from very small customers through to major international broadcasters.
Yeah, and that's very much the case. We've got a wide and varied customer profile. Over 500 customers now worldwide, and they do indeed vary between those extremes.
You can offer an end-to-end service for all of those customers?
We're clearly very famous for our live encoders, be they encoding MPEG-2, H.264 or now HEVC, and moving into 4K ultra-high def HEVC. Those live encoders can also do packaging, HLS, smooth, But we also offer an origin server now, which will do packaging on the fly, so just-in-time packaging, for example. So now you can take an example where before you might have to encode 3 sets of video assets for HLS, Smooth and Flash, for example, and now Dash, of course. That's using up 4 times more storage than you need, because you're saving one of each asset, whereas the video is actually the same. So now we can just say, just store one lot of your video, your profile, your adaptive bitrate profile from SD to HD or even 4K, and we'll package that for you on the fly based on the user that's requesting to view that asset.
So it plays out live to the right format?
Yes. So mum watching the cooking program on iPad in the kitchen will get HLS. Son in the bedroom on his PC watching a movie will get Smooth, and so on. And then beyond that, we can also then look at what user is requesting what the video asset, and only send to them the resolutions required. For instance, there's really no point sending 1080p to an iPad. So now you start also thinking about bandwidth savings, and these are crucial. So there's 2 elements to bandwidth savings. One is we are looking at lowering bit rates all the time by improving our software algorithms. Again, you can do this in software, can't do that in hardware. So we're improving video quality all the time, be it MPEG-2, H.264. HEVC brings the promise of halving bit rates for the same quality. So again, that's reducing bit rates, but then we're also reducing bandwidth requirements by not sending video where it's not required.
So you can tell what kind of device is being used and use the correct bandwidth and the minimum bandwidth needed to reach it.
Yeah. And then beyond that, it gets even more exciting, because we can now think about things like ad insertion, and we can think about who's consuming that video, and when there's an ad break, by working in conjunction with an ad decision engine, one of our technology partners, father will watch the advert for the promo for the next Formula 1 race. Mother will see an advert for it's going to sound sexy now, but she'll get the kitchen appliance or something. And,
or the other way around.
Or the other way around. And son will get a new PS3 game or something.
So this is targeted advertising based on the demographics that you've learned from the IP connection.
Yeah. And this is now bringing about the reality of a more of a return on investment for people investing in OTT services. Beyond that, we've just at NAB launched our StatMux product, which truly now starts to look at the unified converged head end. Whereas again, previously you've had OTT and you've had live linear. Now we can look at doing all of that. Live linear has traditionally been hardware. We can now look at doing all of that with the same software and the savings that would bring about. And our StatMux is unique in that it is multi-codec, multi-resolution. So within the same StatMux now you could have a 4K HEVC along with some H.264, along with some MPEG-2.
They can be serving multiple streams from the same box.
Yeah, so that would be going, a lot of that would be going off to a set-top box, be it an old one with MPEG-2 or a new one as they come to the market doing 4K, or off to OTT or wherever. So this is very exciting. I think part of the cool vendor approach, because that's very cool. We also won an IABM Game Changer Award at NAB for exactly this approach.
So your process or your service is essential with so many different devices, so many different standards, to just take the pain out of it for broadcasters.
Yes, and given what the end result seems so simple to the consumer, what goes into that is amazingly complex. And then you start to add into the mix subtitles, DRM, encryption, and again, with our technology partners there, we deliver that whole ecosystem.
Given the complexity that you would face without a software system, it almost seems a surprise that Gardner is getting to numbers for 25% by 2018. One would almost think it would be more.
I think we have to factor into it change management. I think if you talk to any broadcaster now, they will say the technology is capable of doing this. They now have to think about implementation. So if it's a greenfield site, I think it's a no-brainer. If you've got an investment, then there's a transition period. And I don't think anybody can predict that transition period. For sure, I think any new services they put in will be software defined, and they may leave their live linear for now, but they'll have it in the back of their mind that this is the next transition when the time is right for them, based on their investment cycle, based on their staff disciplines. I don't think that's too dissimilar in my mind to when we moved to file-based workflows. Everybody understood it was a fantastic idea and it was the way it had to be, but transitioning from tape-based to file-based took some time. So I suspect Gartner have looked at that and gone, we think this. I think in some markets there'll be an explosion, other markets will take longer. And that may be regional, but just based on mindset.
And your model is a license model that's sort of flexible according to business case?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're very happy to deal with customers who prefer a CapEx model and those who prefer an OpEx model. And whether they want perpetual licenses, whether they want to buy appliances with a perpetual license, or whether they want to buy a pay-as-you-go service, or whether they want to buy an annual license. Again, this is the beauty of software.